Prudent Money with Bob Brooks is sponsored by the Prudent Money Foundation on 91.3.
Well, more ways to save gas. Today we're going to take a look. Stay tuned for the special Car Corner edition of Prudent Money. This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. Thank you so much for joining me today. You know I do appreciate it. Actually, it's a special Car Corner edition of Prudent Money, and Tony Joe's here with me as he is every Friday to take your Car Corner questions. The number to call is 1-877-913-5357, 1-877-913-5357. You can also go to the website at www.prudentmoney.com. Send a question to the Ask Bob section, and we'll get you taken care of. That's all at the website, www.prudentmoney.com. 1-877-913-5357. Tony Joe, you've got to be miserable during the day with it as hot as it is in that garage. Yeah, do you have any cold air, any AC coming in at all, or is it just...
No, just fans. And I have learned that when it reaches 102, exactly, 102 and above, you can just turn the fans off because the air feels, I think the air's hotter at that point coming out of the fan.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
It works okay at 100, but at 102 is the point that I've noticed. It's just not worth having the fan.
So,
there, excuse me. One thing I'll say about the shop, and that is, yeah, it may be hot, but it's not as bad as people think.
Yeah.
Because a lot of shady characters hang around that place. Keeps it a little bit cooler.
Yeah, that's funny, Tony Joe. 877-913-5357. I knew it was coming, and I knew I couldn't stop it, so I apologize to my listening
audience. You can't reach my microphone button that quick.
Yeah, so thus far, how's this summer compared to summers in the past? I mean, it seems like right now it's really starting to dial up a little bit with heat.
Yeah, I noticed this summer hit hard and fast right off the bat, more so than other summers. But, yeah, it's Texas, it's summertime, it's nothing we haven't seen before. And I want to tell you, in case you don't know this, I don't know if I ever told you this, but my first summer ever in the state of Texas was the summer of 1980.
Oh,
and
yeah,
I don't
remember
know,
that.
Were you in Waco? Were you?
Yeah, I was in Waco. I remember that. There was like 100 and something straight days of 100-degree plus weather.
Well, it was 42 straight days in a
42.
row of 100 plus. But two of those days, June 26 and 27, were 113. So, and you got to realize that coming from upstate New York near Canada, where we have cold weather, our biggest, hottest day in the summer might be 82. And after 2 weeks of that, summer's over. So coming down here, my first year, I was broke in pretty hard, And so ever since then, we had the summer of 2011, which was fairly close, but still wasn't as hot as 1980. And I was thinking today on the way over here, in 1981, I didn't hear people running around talking about global warming and how, we got to reduce the CO2 in the air and all that, because I don't think, well, as a matter of fact, I know it's never been on record in the state of Texas, in Dallas anyway, it has never been that hot since. That was the hottest 2 days, and the hottest summer ever recorded in Dallas, Texas, since the beginning of recording temperatures. So, this global warming is climate change, if you will. Yeah, climate's always changing, but we've never gotten to that point again. I just want to point that out to people. I mean, I was around for the summer of 1980, and I know a lot of listeners probably my age were also around then, but, it wasn't the end of the world, and it's never been that hot since. We've had a couple of close summers. 2011 comes to mind, where it was fairly close, but it's nothing we haven't seen before, and this is normal. This is Texas, and it's summertime. So,
this afternoon, I got a little chilled in my office, and I almost called the guy who takes care of the
Superintendent,
AC.
turn it up like
Turn
2
up
degrees.
just a couple of degrees because it was getting a little chilly
I
in
feel
the
bad
office,
for you.
and
Yeah.
I mean, I almost put some kind of top on because it was
Mhm.
so cold.
Well, if you get a little chilly, Bob, you go get some coffee, get a coat, or call the superintendent, have him turn the thermostat up like 1 degree. Because we all want you to be comfortable.
1-877-913-5357. Let's talk about the other pain of the day, which is gas prices. Now, we've had a little bit of a reprieve, if you want to call it that. I don't know. To me, there's a breaking point that once you get above it, it doesn't really matter. It's just like, what's the difference between 100 and 102?
Mhm. Right.
I know 2 degrees, but it all feels the same.
Yeah, I agree with you, Bob. If it's 99 one day and it's 102 the other, wow, we're not even going to hit 100 today. You're not going to know the difference, but
But you said you saw gas at 402.
I saw gas at 402 this morning, and I'm sure there's other people listening right now that may even have seen it cheaper than that. And I noticed that it's been going down for the past 10 days, and I don't think it's going to last, but I don't know what to attribute it to. And I know you're not really big into oil and gas.
Well, but let me say this, though, is that when markets, such as the oil market, goes up and goes really high and it's kind of a bull market run, they're going to take a break. They're going to fall in price. They're going to kind of go back and forth a little bit. Then they're going to take off again. And I think that just happens in markets. So I think that's what we're going to see with the price of oil. I think that's what we're seeing with interest rates right now as well.
And there's something else that I've been listening to about information that I never thought of before. And as we try to make the trend going to EVs, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Anyway, as we try to make the trend, the advance into electric vehicles and go to solar power and wind power, you got to think that the Exxons and Mobils and Shells and all those people are, I mean, how do you increase the supply so you can get the price down a little bit? Why? What's the incentive for them to do that now? You know what I mean? What's the incentive to build another refinery or build more refineries so we can process more, get more supply? I mean, do you remember not too long ago when gasoline or crude oil went negative? Remember that?
Yeah. No.
I called you and I said, I want to buy so much crude oil because it was like negative $1 negative.
I think it got down to negative $1.42 or something like that. It was. Just,
and you said, where are you going to put it? And I said, well, I didn't think of that yet. But with that $1.42 they're going to pay me times the amount of oil I'm going to buy, I'll think of something. And you said, no, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, just think if you'd have done that, you'd be a pretty rich man right now.
Can you believe? I mean, think about the swing in the volatility, I guess you would call it.
Yeah.
Negative $1. What was that, during COVID, right? Maybe a couple of years ago.
During COVID.
Because I know I called you and said, Bob, it's negative $1. What does that mean?
I tell you what, Tony, I was just thinking back over the past 30 years and some of the just crazy things that have happened in the markets. Just absolutely mind-blowing.
Mm-hmm. Well.
And probably haven't seen anything yet.
Probably not.
1-877-913-5357. Well, let's talk a little bit about some of these things we talk about through the year. I think it makes sense to really dive into a couple things today because anything that can give some relief. People are, for good reason, are drawn to the cheap gas station.
Mm-hmm.
The difference between lower price gas and the Texacos and the Exxons of the world.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that from the standpoint of it? Do you advise people that that's okay? I mean, obviously there's some downsides to it, or just kind of stay away from.
Here's what you got to realize, Bob. To me, this is what I think of. When you're stretching your dollar and you're stretching it as far as it can go, and your budget only goes so far, of course, cheaper fuel is going to appeal to you. It really is. And I understand that from every perspective, from anybody that's in that situation. However, to try to tell them or explain to them the technical aspects of why it's not getting you anywhere is very difficult at times like this to understand. It's not good for your vehicle. It's damaging fuel system components. It's not doing you any good. You're not getting any further on that particular gallon of fuel that you're paying 6 cents less for than the stuff you'd pay a little more for, because you would actually go farther down the road if you can think about that.
Take a minute and explain that, because that is the main point there. Said another way, the good gasoline is going to last longer than the cheaper gasoline is going to last.
It'll give you more miles per gallon.
More miles per gallon. Right. So, and why is that the case? We got a minute left.
Okay, real quick. The storage tanks at the refineries, and especially at the depots, like in Irving, when they get to the bottom 5-6% of the tanks, a lot of sediment, a lot of water, a lot of contamination is left in to settle down at the bottom of those tanks. So Exxon, for instance, doesn't want that in their stations because they know it could have some drawbacks, some negative effects. So they sell it to the wholesalers. The wholesalers go out there and they'll put it in their gas station tanks and they'll sell it. And usually you will find they'll use it as a lost leader like you just described, where it's an appealing price. They want to get you in for the gas price to attract your attention, so you'll come in and buy some gas at a discount. But they expect you to buy Cokes and hot dogs and everything else. That's how it's used.
1-877-913-5357. This is Bob Brooks. Stick around. Be right back.
The Word for Today is excited to announce the new official online home for the ministry of Pastor Chuck Smith and K. Smith, PastorChuck.org. At PastorChuck.org, you'll have instant access to thousands of hours of verse-by-verse teaching by Pastor Chuck Smith from Genesis through Revelation, and full access to special messages on subjects such as prophecy and much, much more. Also at PastorChuck.org, a full library of great teachings by K. Smith, and a section where you can read some of Pastor Chuck's books online, all free of charge. So visit the new official online home of the Word for Today and the ministry of Pastor Chuck and K. Smith, PastorChuck.org.
When things seem impossible, God makes a way. That's what we learn when Through the Bible travels through the book of Ruth. Ruth and Naomi have lost their husbands and sons, made a treacherous journey back to Jerusalem, and are dealing with the poverty and hopelessness widows faced in that day. But God's about to do something big.
Listen daily, 6:30 p.m. on Bible School Radio 91.3.
One of the best ways to fix our minds on Christ is through memorizing Scripture. But without a regular Bible reading practice, this can be difficult. Monday on Focal Point, Pastor Mike Fabarez begins a new message called Rekindling a Passion for God's Word. The Bible is truly our ultimate source for wisdom, strength, and encouragement. Listen Monday to Focal Point.
8:30 a.m. on Bible School Radio 91.3.
Welcome back. This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to this special Car Corner edition of Prudent Money. 1-877-913-5357. One other shortcut that I think people think about, and they wonder if it's a good idea or not, but they do it anyway because, once again, kind of have to, just to keep up with inflation. Using the lower grade gas, whether you're at a Texaco or Exxon or wherever, but the entry level grade gas, is that something that they can end up being a bad deal for your car?
No, not really. That's cute. Entry level gas. I assume you mean 87, right?
Yes.
Okay, so the lowest price is the lowest octane rating.
That's
the 87.
That's the entry level.
Well, okay, but the 87 is 87 octane. Those are octane ratings on there. Now, here's the problem with fuel today, and there's nothing any of us can do about it, but you'll have some vehicles that have written a description right on the fuel gauge or possibly on the gas cap when you open the lid to put gas in. It'll say, use premium fuel only. Now, there are some high-end cars that, not all high-end cars, there's some cars out there that will have that labeled, use premium fuel only. Now, the octane rating in the fuel is to prevent what we used to call pre-ignition or detonation. That is a sound that occurs when you accelerate that sounds like a bunch of marbles rolling around in your engine. And these are hot spots that ignite before the spark plug is ready. In other words, it's ignition that occurs pre-ignition is what we call it. It happens a little bit before it's supposed to. Well, if you have that, that can damage your engine. You don't want to let that go over a long period of time because that can certainly do engine damage. However, if you don't hear it, you can use the 87 octane, and if you don't hear the pre-ignition occur, then you're okay to use 87 octane. Most cars have the capability now to adjust the timing through sensors called knock sensors that will retard the timing to prevent pre-ignition no matter what kind of fuel, with any of the 3 octane ratings. So the best thing you can do is put 87 octane, the cheaper cost fuel. If you hear pre-ignition, nothing's going to happen in one tank. But if you hear this noise that occurs under acceleration only, it sounds like marbles rolling around, or if you've ever heard a car that's overheating, it's the same kind of noise, then you would want to jump up to 89 and try that. But you don't necessarily have to use 93 unless the car just will not cooperate under any other conditions. And I suppose there's some out there that may just have to use 93, but very, very few, and a lot of them that are labeled 93 don't need it, or 92 octane, whatever it is. The 87 octane, all 3 of the octane ratings don't necessarily mean as much as the 10% ethanol that you'll see on the little sign when you get fuel. Now, ethanol is an alcohol that's added to the fuel. It does not burn. It burns. It's hard to explain, but ethanol is a bad ingredient as far as mechanics are concerned. We don't like ethanol in the fuel because it does a lot of damage to the fuel system just in itself. But the reason they put it in the fuel is to clean the air. It's supposed to burn cleaner for the air pollution requirements for the EPA. Now, because we have this 10% ethanol in our fuel, it will not burn as efficiently. So if you were to use straight 85, E85 they call it, which is 85% ethanol, you would find out that it burns up quicker and you don't get the fuel economy out of it that you would get out of regular gasoline. Having said that, you got to go back to the 10%, and now they're trying to legislate adding even more ethanol into the fuel, maybe as much as 15%, because of the shortage of, the high cost of fuel. So They're going to use less gasoline and a little more ethanol, which is going to make things even worse. The car does not like ethanol. The fuel system doesn't like it. The catalytic converters don't like it. Nobody likes it, including me. But we don't have any choice. We got to buy what's at the pump when we pull up to it. But this is just keeping people updated on what's going on. I hope they don't allow to increase from 10 to 15% ethanol. It's just not going to be good for anybody. It's really not what they think for the air pollution, and it does some detrimental things to your car over time, which costs people a lot of money to get repaired. So what's the point of spending this much just we're spending for a gallon of gasoline, getting poisoned, so to speak, and then having to have our car repaired on top of that. It's just a bad thing all around for everybody.
So tell me something. In your Ferrari, do you have to put premium?
Oh, I don't use regular. I use aviation fuel in the Ferrari. I have to go to the airport to buy that. It's straight unleaded, no additives.
I don't think anybody said I was joking.
Oh, well then, so was I.
1-877-913-5357. Somebody's going, Tony Joe's got a Ferrari?
Yeah, Tony Joe does not have a Ferrari. I may be Italian, but Italians should stick to making spaghetti sauce and wine and leave the car business alone.
Okay, well, here's the question. We could talk through several things, and we'll continue to do so. I can hear the wheels turning and saying, but yeah, in order to get the really good gas savings, I got to go spend $300 on a tune-up, or I got to go spend money on a new set of tires. Considering all that, what is the biggest bang for your buck in save when it comes to getting better gas mileage?
Right now, the best thing anybody can do is, if you have poor driving habits, change them. Driving habits is something that costs you $0, can save you a ton of fuel economy, and you may not even realize how your driving is affecting your fuel economy. Some people are just used to it. They've been taught this way. They've been driving this way for so long. You know, you don't make jackrabbit starts. You don't speed up to the stoplight and then make a huge, almost screeching the tires to come to a stop. You drive moderately, and you drive in balance. You don't have to go very fast as far as keeping up with the guy next to you. You just want to go the speed limit. You know, there's no hurry. You got to drive like a little old lady, so to speak. I don't mean you have to be a detriment to traffic. You go with traffic flow like anybody else, but you use common sense. The thing that causes poor fuel economy is high RPM and lots of load. So try to keep the RPMs and the load somewhat balanced, as in moderate stops, moderate acceleration. You get on the highway, you don't have to speed up and beat everybody going down the ramp to get ahead. Just take your time, merge with traffic. Those kind of driving habits will solve an awful lot of fuel economy problems. Now, there is things mechanically that can be wrong with a car, and of course, they would have to be fixed. But if you took everything out of the equation, what's the one thing you yourself can do without costing one dime out of your pocket is watch your driving habits, and if you don't know how to do it, learn how to do it. It's very simple to do, and it will increase fuel economy immediately for no cost.
You know, something else, we've talked about this before, but I think it's worth mentioning, that doesn't cost anything to increase gas mileage. Check your trunk.
There's an awful lot of things that go along with driving habits, and that is, Bob, weight. You know, in case a lot of people don't know, they're making the cars lighter, and lighter out of thinner metals and less of it, more composite plastics. This is all because they want to lighten the car. They want to make the car weight as little as possible to get better fuel economy. So if you think about carrying all that stuff in the trunk for no reason, you're just too lazy to take it out.
Which, let me interrupt you and say, the obvious is that the heavier, lighter car makes a bigger impact than if you had an older car and you threw that junk in the back, the weight would probably absorb itself.
Possibly,
right? Possibly.
But, that's something that we are very diligent about now, and that's the weight of the vehicle. So, to your point, yes, it makes a big difference nowadays
a bigger difference.
A bigger difference than ever. To keep the weight down, which means anything you're carrying around that you really don't need, take it out and put it in the garage, because, that's one thing that can affect fuel economy, along with a lot of things that nobody ever thinks about. And I know we're not going to be able to get to all those today, but next week we're going to talk about some of the things that would never occur to you that would affect fuel economy in a big way. We got a lot of things to go over right now. If you want to talk about this, I will tell you that one of the things that's happening to cars now is the weight, staying on the weight topic. I just want to point out, one of the things that's happening today is you'll notice a lot of cars don't come with a spare tire anymore.
Sure.
They come with a can of Fix-A-Flat. They went from a full-size spare years ago to a donut, and now it's just a can of Fix-A-Flat. Why is that? It's about weight.
Sure. Good stuff, Tony Joe. This is Bob Brooks. If you have a question for me, please go to the website at prudentmoney.com and send it in, because we are all out of time till we do meet again next time. Keep the faith and have a great rest of the day.
That's all the time we have for today. Questions or comments for Bob, or to find out more great information like what you've just heard, visit www.prudentmoney.com. Be sure to join Bob Brooks again for the next edition of Prudent Money.